Wow, it's so good to be here. I so love that song because years ago, it was about 1995, and I took the 4T class here, sitting right here in this sanctuary on a Monday night for about 10 weeks or so. And it's Tithing of Time, Talents, and Treasures by Reverend Stretton Smith, who has since passed on. Powerful class. And in that class, we were asked to identify our purpose and then to go on and identify what we want. What do we really want? And I identified my purpose to be a light and not a judge. And what I really wanted was to find my right place and my true purpose. And years I would sit there and I'd watch, I'd sit where you are and I'd look up here and I'd think, one of these days, I want to tell my story. Because the people who inspired me most in my life-changing experiences were people whose stories I listened to. People who were up here on this platform would speak on Sundays, and I thought they were just talking to me. I would write copious notes. All my shorthand would be all around the bulletin, on the back, on the front, sideways, and I'd get home and I'd study those notes, and I went, someday, I'm going to be there to help people by sharing my truths, just as they've been shared with me, my right place and my true purpose. I think I found it. And then I asked Millie, we were talking about what songs to go along with the service, because I believe the music is the message. She could just sing, the choir could just sing, the temple singers, Lamar could play, and you would be churched. You wouldn't even need me here. And I came up with Use Me. Stephanie Bland sang it at our Wednesday service, and I got chills. Because that's exactly what I was affirming in that 4T class. Use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me just what all I must do. What I must do. Well, I didn't know exactly how I would get here. I just knew that that's what I wanted. I knew the what. And I learned that the how is none of our business. It's God's business. If you just keep putting one foot in front of the other towards your dream, God will do all the rest for you. Command my hands. What must they do? Command my life. It's here for you. God is the source of all creation. God's the creator, all and all. God needs each and every one of us to show up, to shine our lights. That's what was happening every Sunday. I couldn't miss a Sunday. Come Monday at work, if I didn't go to church on Sunday to get that light shining on me, my week didn't seem to go well. Now, I'm not saying you have to come to church to get the Spirit of God, because it's already in you. Someone has said, there's no more use in going to church to become a Christian as there is to going into a garage to become a mechanic. I have no mechanical skills whatsoever, and I've been in many garages, and trust me, it hasn't helped. But this does help, because we're among kindred spirits, and that makes all the difference. There's something about the Spirit in this place. Wherever you are, God is, and that Spirit goes with you. When you leave here, you take on this Spirit, and people who pass you by can feel it. Can feel it. Duke took the day off, by the way. He's having church with his 5-year-old grandson who's celebrating his birthday. And it follows that, Duke is very spiritual and he knows truth, and he's one of the people I used to sit and listen to and write copious notes and think someday I'm going to be up there with him. Because in Isaiah 11:6 it says, and a little child shall lead them, and that's exactly what his grandson is doing today. I love to dance. People who know me very well know that I was a dancing queen in my day. And when Motown comes on, you wouldn't recognize me. I turn into a totally different person. But one thing I learned early on, I started dancing with a partner in about 7th grade. And my partner and I had this special dance that no one else could dance with him. And I learned that in order to be effective in dance, you have to be able to follow. You can't just lead. And where I come from, the boys felt they had to lead. If you were trying to lead, they would tell you, look, I'm leading, you just follow. I'm leading, you follow. And that's what Jesus was doing, leading. But somewhere along the line, as Christianity developed, people stopped following where he was leading and start following him. And so because of that, we've lost track of the Christ in us that he came to teach us in leading us in the dance of life. Christ in you, the hope of glory. Christ in you, the hope of glory. You have everything you need in you to be whatever it is you choose to be, to find your true purpose, your right place. Jesus taught this in many examples, but a lot of people just fell down and worshiped him, and he was trying to point the way. That's why in Unity we call him our way shower and teacher. Deepak Chopra said, where we went wrong is when Jesus was pointing, instead of looking at where he was pointing, we began to worship the finger. I said today in Bible class, he gave us the finger. And we didn't follow it. So I want to talk to you a little bit about pointing the way. Jesus told the disciples, don't be as me, follow me. Follow me and I will make you fishers of men. Fish represent ideas and consciousness. Men represents our humanity. Follow me and I will help you raise your consciousness to a higher level. I will help you find the Christ in you, your true self, your right place, and your true purpose. Follow me. Even some of the disciples didn't quite get it at the time. And they just saw the miracles that he did and worshiped him. He was saying, I'm showing you these things because it's not me. It's the Father in me doing the work. These things I do, you may do also, and even greater works. And they still followed the man. The woman at the well knew when she came in the middle of the day and she wasn't supposed to be there because she was shunned in society. And she said, he said, give me to drink. And she said, but you have nothing for me to put it in. He says, I give you living water. And those who drink of the living water shall never thirst again. What do you come here on Sundays for? Living water. Living water, that whatever you're thirsting for in your life, the word of truth can quench that thirst if you're willing. If you're willing. Everyone is able, but not everyone is willing. The woman at the well was willing to drink of whatever this mysterious living water was. She believed what he said. She didn't know what it was, but whatever it was, she was ready to receive it. You have to be willing, and where there is a will, there is a way. Speaking of wills, you all look so serious. There was an elderly man who passed away, and he was very wealthy. And when the attorney was reading the will with his wife and his daughter and his brother present, all anxiously awaiting what he left them, he said to my dear wife, Sarah, I leave our home of 50 years and $2 million. To my dear, dedicated daughter, Elizabeth, I leave my business and $1 million. To my brother who always teased me that health was greater than wealth, I leave my treadmill and my stair climber. I knew I'd get you laughing. Laughter is the best medicine. And if you don't believe Jesus taught laughter, let me share something that he was supposed to have said. For those of you who like to criticize, as the brother did in that story, you look at other people and you always find that some kind of a flaw. My daughter teases me a lot. I'll be watching a show on TV and I'll go, look at those shoes. Where'd she get those? Those are the ugliest shoes I've ever seen, you know. She'll go, Mom, we're supposed to be watching this show. You're not supposed to be picking apart the people and what they have on. And so, you know, sometimes we do that, and if you're tempted, Jesus had a sense of humor, and here's what he said. How is it that you're so concerned with a speck of dust in your eye that you ignore the in your brother's eye, rather, that you ignore the 2x4 in your own eye? Now picture that, a big old plank of wood sticking in your eye. Here was a man with a sense of humor and a way of sharing things where people got it. It wasn't so serious. And I think church is meant to be loose, not necessarily all that serious. So I want you all to just loosen up. Just wiggle a little bit, just loosen up. I don't want you to be all that serious. What I have to say is nothing you don't already know. Job in 22:28 said, you shall decree a thing, and it shall be done unto you, and the light will shine upon you. And the light will shine upon you. Where there's a will, there's a way. On the front of the bulletin, I have a couple of quotes that I want to call your attention to. The first one I just read from Job. The second is Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, and what he had to say about this power of will. He said, the will is the avenue through which the I am expresses the potentiality. Persistence is essential to its demonstration. So you may be doing something or trying to reach a goal, or even like I did for many years, sitting there thinking, one of these days, I'm going to be up there and I'm going to help people the way I've been helped in this church. But without a will, there's no way. Where there's a will, there's a way. You have to be willing. Last week, Reverend Warren Teachout, our newest minister, talked about understanding. And he quoted Proverbs, which says, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. The one thing you need to know about the 12 powers that Charles Fillmore talked about, our 12 faculties, which is what we're talking about, and our youth and Unite service are working on now. And you'll see the youth come up with a sign today that says will. They've been studying the power of will. The one thing about will is none of the other faculties work without it. You can have faith, you can have strength, you can have understanding, you can have love, you can have life, you can have renunciation, you can have zeal or enthusiasm, you can have imagination, but if you don't have the will to put those to use, they are no good to you. Have you ever met someone and you can see their talents, you can see it just oozing, but they don't think so. They don't use their talents. They hide their light under a bushel, as Scripture says. They don't think they're good enough. They don't think they are enough. No matter how much talent they have, if they don't have the will to express it, it does not serve them, nor does it serve anyone else. Just as the song says, God needs us to shine our light as we are. It takes a willingness to do that. Some people shy away from shining their light. Well, you know, maybe people will think I'm silly, or they won't like it, or it's not good enough, or they'll make fun. We have all kinds of excuses to not shine our light. But where there's a will, there's a way. There's a woman, some of you may not have heard of, by the name of Reverend Dr. Ruth Mosley. Years ago, Reverend Mosley graduated from Unity School of Religious Studies, and she went back to her home church in Detroit, a church that she helped to found, and people there were saying, well, we would love to become Unity ministers, but there's no opportunity for us because we have a job, and we can't move to Lee Summit, to Unity Village, where the ministers are trained at Unity Village. And so Ruth came up with an idea to create a satellite school. And almost 40 years ago, she proposed this idea on 3 or 4 occasions, and it was shot down. And then several people took an interest in Ruth's idea of starting this school where students in the Detroit area could go after work part-time and on weekends for 2 years or 3 years, and then come to Unity Village to finish their last year. Finally, someone spoke up on Ruth's behalf to the board of directors of Unity Worldwide. And Ruth's idea came to fruition. The reason Warren and I are ministers today is because Ruth's idea, the house that Ruth built, is still alive. The Unity Urban Ministerial School that operates based out of Detroit, totally online. The first online Unity school where ministers are ordained by Unity World Headquarters, Unity Worldwide Ministries, but we get to stay in our jobs, in our homes, with our families, and work online. Now, Ruth had to be persistent because others didn't see her vision. But she kept focused on what was hers to do, her right place and her true purpose. And as a result of her not giving up, this school has been operating for 40 years. Now, the online program just started in 2009, but the physical school started in 1979 in Detroit. The first 8 students came here after 3 years, and they finished their licensing and ordination at Unity Worldwide. So I said all that to say that it's persistence that pushes the will forward. Calvin Coolidge, the 30th president of the United States, wrote an essay called Press On, and I put that on the bulletin. It's one of my favorites. Whenever you hit a snag or you're really working on a goal and it just seems to be getting further and further away from you, and you just ask yourself, am I really supposed to be doing this? Is this what I'm here to do? Is this what I'm here to be? Read what Calvin said. They called him Silent Cal. I guess when he spoke, people listened. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful people with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education alone will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. Press on, the slogan by Silent Cal, our 30th president, has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. Persistence. Persistence. Where there's a will, there's a way. I met a couple of friends of mine invited me to meet a lady that they have endeared for the past several years. But I didn't get to meet Marietta in person. They called me this week and asked me would I do Marietta's graveside eulogy. We drove to Lacine, Kansas, to a small cemetery. And along with the 2 funeral directors, the 3 of us wished Marietta well on her journey to the next phase of her life. What I learned about Marietta was her persistence. She truly lived the idea where there's a will, there's a way. When Marietta turned 95, she announced to her doctor, I made it! I made it! She took good care of her health, her mind, her consciousness. Her goal was to reach 95. A week ago, Thursday, at 98, she was still working towards her next goal. But her next goal was to be rejoined with her husband and her loving cat. And when she took that journey this week and stepped out on faith and allowed Spirit to move her to her right place and for her true purpose, she was free. Free of anything that might have tethered her to this world, free of any ill health or in mind, body, or spirit. She was free. And as we celebrate the freedom of this country this weekend, and on 4th of July, on Tuesday, we need to remember what it means to be free. Our forefathers knew the meaning of where there's a will, there's a way. Those who endured some of the major atrocities in this country and fought for our right to freedom all over the world knew where there's a will, there's a way. They had the will to do what was theirs to do. Where there's a will, there's a way. We need to remember that. We're not here by accident or coincidence. This is our time to let our light shine, to prove that we have the willingness to do whatever is ours to do, to make a difference to make a difference in this world. There are many paths to discover this, and we offer several of them right here at the temple. We have a Bible interpretation group where we're talking about Jesus and the awakening to God consciousness, your higher self, in an interview on video with Deepak Chopra and Reverend Wendy Craig Purcell of Unity of San Diego. It's powerful. Join us next Sunday if you wish, 9 o'clock. The Unite service is featuring the 12 Powers of Man, taught by Charles Fillmore. And you'll see the kiddies come up with their sign today on the will. And the Wednesday gathering, we're doing Discover the Power Within You series, the book by Reverend Eric Butterworth, which is a timeless book in the Unity movement. Join us if you want to learn more about that on Wednesdays at 6:30. And there are things going on here every day to heighten your awareness of who you are and what you're here to be. There's a poem I want to share with you about pointing, about how we get pointed in a direction, and sometimes we're so busy looking at the finger, we don't pay attention to the directions. It's called Walk This Mile With Me, and I think if Jesus, he could have written this. If Jesus were here, he would say this to you. This is what Christianity, this movement is about. It's not about me telling you what to do or where to go. It's wherever you are, me walking with you. Walking with you. And pointing in a direction that's based on my experience is a positive path to get where you want to be. If you have learned to walk a little more sure-footedly than I, be careful with my stumbling then, and know that only as I do my best and try shall I achieve the goals for which we both are striving. If through experience your soul has attained new heights that I as yet do not see, hold out your hand and point the way, lest from its straightness I should stray, and walk this mile with me. Don't worship the finger. Follow the direction. There are signs pointing to you all the time to go this way. When you go into silence and meditation, you get visions of where you're supposed to be headed. Walk that way in spirit and in truth. What I'm talking about is where there's a will. If you're willing to follow, the guidance is always there for you if you're willing. You have to be willing. Where there's a will, there's a way. One of those ways that I found to be most beneficial to me is prayer and meditation. So I invite you to take in what I've said, what you remember of it, and let us take these ideas into the silence and see where they're pointing you, because there is where you'll find all of the answers in the silence.